I'm like cleared all my stuff, met this girl, I'm like working. I'm about to go to my next appointment to Iraq. And I'm going, all right, man, we're back in it. Let's go to this concert. Boom. I get arrested at that concert for riding in a golf cart that wasn't mine. The cops roll up on me. I'm all blasted in tattoos, jacked. They go, hey, and I go, the moment goes, I'm on probation. I'm drunk. They run my name. I'm fucked. So I go, hey, yeah. I go, yeah, I'm just, they go, who's that? I go, I grab my wallet, boom, and I run. All right. Taylor Cavanaugh, United States Navy, 2010 to 2017, and the French Foreign Legion, 2019 to 2024. I was raised in San Diego, California, born in Boston, but raised in San Diego, California, and quintessential Southern California growing up, right? Playing roller hockey after watching Mighty Ducks in the street and going to the beach, but it wasn't all roses, right? My parents had a tumultuous marriage. My dad was in the Marines. So what actually brought us out to California was the Marine Corps. We first moved to the base in Tustin, which is now a bunch of condos, but there was like a Chinook base in Tustin, Orange County. And that's where I grew up, my early years in the late 80s, like just getting into the 90, 91 era. And then we moved down to San Diego. And that's where I went K through 12, all the way up, kind of in the middle of San Diego, Serra Mesa area, going down in the canyons, playing with kids on the street, man. It was, looking back, I'm very, very fortunate because even though my parents had a kind of an explosive marriage, right? Some breakups and there were some financial issues and stuff like that. So tense growing up. And I think a lot of guys watching this can, because I think it's probably more common than it's not common. And I have a little sister also, but sports were pushed. I mean, I was in competitive sports year round from the time I was like 4, all the time. Soccer, football, baseball, swimming, even though I hated swimming, man. Having to put, my dad, he's got a Boston accent. He goes, hey, dude, you're going to put your doinka bathing suit on, guy. And I'd be like, man, I'd wear board shorts up to the thing and pull them off and jump in. I hated that, dude. But I was fast. I was really good. I was one of the best 11-year-olds because I quit doing it after that in San Diego for a while. It's at a few events. Now I know that actually worked out well for me, right? Being a Navy SEAL later on. But when I'm moving into high school, we moved to an area called Poway, a little bit more affluent. My parents broke up for good. My mom's a teacher, mind you. And so humble roots, right? Pretty much single mom at that point. Dad was in and out. He never left by any stretch like that. So I don't want to make it sound like that, but there was, it was financially tense. And we moved up to an area called Poway. Good move. Chicks were hotter. Sports were better. And it was more communal because in San Diego, you could be living next door to somebody because of affirmative action and stuff. You could go any high school. So you could live next door to somebody and go to the same high school. In Poway, you had to live there and prove residency to actually go to that high school. So I liked it, man. So I played football and lacrosse all through high school. And I was pretty good at school and I did my homework and whatever. But as high school goes, girls come and start getting into partying. I mean, we'd be going down to Mexico to shoot steroids, man, and go to the strip club and be back for football practice, man. And I thought that shit was normal, but it wasn't, right? And so I was starting, at like 16 years old, man, that we were doing that stuff and still good at sports. A lot of accolades, doing really well in lacrosse, really well in football. But midway through senior year, I got kicked out for possession of marijuana in my car. And that affected some scholarship offers and some other things. Going back, I knew I wanted to be a Navy SEAL at 7 years old. For sure, I saw glow lights in the bay. My dad told me what was going on, training, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a Navy SEAL. Boom. It was like in me in 1992, man. Men with Green Faces, Oliver documentary, and Vietnam documentaries. All this stuff, I could not get enough of it. And I want to stress, it wasn't a romantic notion of the job. I wasn't picturing being Rambo or nothing. I knew it was dirty. I knew it was cold. I knew it sucked. I just knew I was going to do that. When I knew that being a commando was a job, I was like, well, I'll just do that. So that was actually part of the reason I just was like, oh, school, whatever. I know I'm gonna end up doing that. But I also knew I needed to go to college too, because in my mom, college graduate, my grandfather was a captain in the Navy, Naval Academy graduate. It was just assumed you went to college. Didn't even see it as an option to not go. So I ended up going to the only like school that would take me to two-sport, which was a D3 in Orange County, Chapman University. And I started there, but before we went into that school, I got in a huge car accident, come back from the river, ejected out of a lifted Tundra, man, on the freeway, rolled the thing so many times they didn't even know what color the car was. And two guys in the car got skin grafts all messed up. They had seatbelts on. I didn't. And I got ejected out on the freeway going like 90. I must be hardy or something, man, because, man, I landed, shoulder was still a little messed up, but dislocated my hip. But I walked out of the hospital 3 days later after they popped it back in. So I had a dislocated hip, 17 years old, 4th of July, 2003. And man, I walked out, I was pretty banged up, but obviously that wasn't setting me up going into football season. So I was in the dorm rooms, supposed to be red shirting, not going to practice, not going to the wedge, going to the beach and drinking, and just got pretty much kicked off of campus in the first semester, right? Got like one credit that I barely, one class, and it was a failure. Fail. Round one, fail. So I came back, and where am I? Back at my mom's house in Poway. And I remember it was winter, right? So it was cold. And I just remember this like lonely failure feeling, right? Because now I wasn't BMOC anymore in high school. Now, as people know, once you transition out, now the party's gone. Man, now everyone's scattered, but now I'm back at my mom's house. And so starting to do some masonry work, like a mason apprentice. I'm like, I need to work. I had no money, and I needed to keep going to school. So I started at a junior college in San Diego. And I was like, okay, let me get my feet under me. And being a mason's apprentice during the day, carrying bricks and digging holes and going to class at night, but really not doing either. Missing work, not going to class, smoking weed, start selling drugs, doing drugs, ecstasy, everything. I'm selling, doing whatever. Failed out of that school. Didn't get any credits out of that junior college. Nothing terrible happened, but I felt the walls closing in. There was people getting arrested around me. There was things happening, and I was like, I woke up one morning and it was raining, and I just remember a moment where I went, I gotta get out of here. Gotta get out of here. Whether it be God or whatever, it was a moment of clarity. Called my dad, because he had been through, he's been through a lot of stuff. I said, I gotta get out of here, man. I gotta change some shit up. He's like, all right. He just came, and he was in AA and stuff at the time he came. I wasn't strung out or anything like that. I was just like not living right. Warrants for my arrest, suspended driver's license, just everything in the trash. Like just could not, unmanageable. That was where I was at. He came, I got put in like a lockdown facility, 5-day, kind of, not really a detox, but it was really like a psych ward. But I wasn't, psychotic or anything, but it was just what worked in our insurance. Just to get clear, and I went there, and there's people with, like, old people with dementia and dudes on disability and crazy. I was in there with an old Marine he was like 40, getting off heroin, and that's where I was at, 18 years old, just turned 19. And I'm going, man, and I'm telling my dad my plan, and this was a moment that I looked down, I'm telling my dad my plan, and he goes, dude, you don't have any shoelaces on. And I remember looking down, and I went, man, I'm trying to tell somebody what's up, and I have no shoelaces on. So I said, all right, what do I got? He's like, dude, you should get out of here and go back to Boston. I said, okay, all right. I did. I figured I'd be gone for a couple weeks just to let some stuff blow over. Really important move, because that space, I got myself back under me. I got healthy again, was starting to train, get a plan going, get into a junior college. I start training Muay Thai, start at Dorchester Muay Thai Academy, start working out. I'm up at 4, I'm working out with weights, going to school all day. I was locked on, working at a fish market too. And I get straight A's. I figured maybe I'd be a doctor or something, but I was still going to the military. It wasn't even I just knew that. But I was, maybe if I so I was just working hard and get really good grades all the way through, and I get an AA in about a year. Well, I actually applied to UCLA and Berkeley, and they told me to F off, dude. And I got into UCSC, go banana slugs. Great campus, beautiful campus, moved in there. All my discipline went out the window, though. I was drinking on campus, pretty much almost get kicked off campus. Squeaking by on grades, hungover, you know, the girls and the distraction. I just hadn't built my system yet. And I just was immature. Once the distractions come, I'm like, I can be locked on, but I'm like, okay, I can easily go hard right because I had no real foundation of who I was also. In that 2-year period, I ended up getting a degree in politics. I had been arrested probably 7 or 8 times. Drunk in public, disturbing the peace, DUI, driving on a suspended. I was working at a bar, I had to go to get the DUI, so I'm riding a bike now. I'm working and stacking court cases, stacking things. I'm in a vest picking up trash often. Right, doing community service. And I graduated. And this whole time, I'll join the military. Later, after I graduated college. It took me 5 years to get a 4-year degree, but there we are. I graduated. It was time. There was no more later. It had arrived. So I went down to the recruiter, talked to a Marine recruiter, because I knew I wanted to be a SEAL, but I also was like, well, let me see what's up here. And I talked to him, and he's like, dude, you're on probation. You can't be in here, dude. I'm like, oh, looking back, man, I was an idiot. I don't know what I was thinking. But this is when it started to become real, that I needed to figure this out. I talked to a lawyer, and I said, hey, here's the deal. I'm trying to get in the military. And they said, okay, we'll present it to a judge. I had cleared all my fines and all my stuff, and I had done everything the court asked me to do. Riding my bike to AA, NA meetings and stuff in the rain. Man, I had done all the stuff. Looked at my case, and he said, dude, this dude had been around. I know he saw what the heck had happened, how many times I had been booked on probation and different stuff. And he was like, okay, we'll give you 6 months in jail to commute your 3 years of probation. I was like, okay, 6 months in jail. Let's do it. Right, 23 years old. And the lawyer's like, whoa, 6 months in jail for a misdemeanor. Because I had no felonies, mind you. Just a ton of misdemeanors, stacked misdemeanors. And drug charges, no convictions. And all this time, all this stuff that I had done, I had no drug convictions. Charges, a lot of cases thrown out, a lot of stuff that just never stuck. So on that side, I was lucky. And he said, okay, fine, 4. So I agreed. So I volunteered myself at the jail, and I went in for 4 months to a lockdown facility in Santa Cruz County, which is, people know, county jail is a mixed bag of classifications. There's some dangerous mixes, and I didn't see the sunlight for 4 months. 90 days, I did 90 on 4. I volunteered to do jail laundry, so I was in there with, everyone's in there on felonies, waiting trial to go to prison or wherever. It was fine though, man. I saw some weird, terrible, you really see the bottom of the barrel in terms of where people are at, and vibrationally, just a lot of methamphetamine, a lot of stuff, people coming in just shit themselves, and people pooping and psychotic, and people killing their kids in the observation. It's just crazy stuff. But you had to do it. So I'm doing push-ups, I'm working out, I'm doing my thing and trying to stay as focused as possible. So I had a cell within the pod that they would lock us in every once in a while, but it was okay. I didn't really run into too many issues, some friction points, but nothing crazy. And I got out day after Christmas. They let me out at midnight, 2008. And I told the CO, he's like, what are you gonna do? When he walked me out the door, I said, I'm gonna go be a Navy SEAL. And he laughed at me. And I said, man, looking back, good on him, man. But I walking out of jail, 23 years old, man. I don't know what, I was delusional, but that delusional confidence has always helped me. So I said, yeah, man, I didn't know what he was laughing at. I was damn serious, but I was too big. I was 230 walking out of jail. Too heavy, for sure. And I started the process when I had got home, but I didn't go right to the Navy recruiter. I was like terrified of failing buds and being on a ship, or scraping barnacles or chipping paint after failing buds. Because I grew up in San Diego. I knew a lot of all-American wrestlers, water polo players and stuff. Everybody went, nobody passed. Everybody failed. So I wanted a gun and I wanted to deploy. That's what I wanted to do. And I had a degree. So I was like, well, let me go to the Marine officer recruiter and talk to him. Talk to me for a bit. They said, we got to take some pictures of your tattoos. Now, mind you, I had no neck, no hands, some on my arms. My back was all done. Not a little bit on my legs, but nothing really. They took a picture of my body. They sent it up to some brass, and they said, no way, bro. Nope, you can't be an officer. Not only that, you can't even join the Marine Corps. So I was like, well, okay. So I was on a complete red hold from the Marine Corps. They could not even join as an enlisted guy. So I said, okay, well, I'll go to the Army. That'll be a lot easier. So I went to the Army, the recruiter, and they said, did a preliminary background check, and they said, no way. You can't do it, even though you don't have, they didn't want to deal with it. It was too checkered, and they said no. So now I'm getting scared. I'm going, whoa, man. What am I going to do? I had no plan B. I was going to the military. I hadn't set up internships. I hadn't done none of that. So I went back to my mom's, rode my bike from the Army. I remember this day so clearly. It was like February 2009. And I was low, man. I had student loans creeping up, climbing up my ass. I had no proposition, no job. I'm riding a bike. I'm at my mom's house. And I can't get in the military. I was like, damn, okay, this life happens fast. Now it was starting to get real. I was pretty low. And that's when I started researching the French Foreign Legion. Now, I had heard of the French Foreign Legion before, probably as a child when I kind of coming across my military travel research. But now I go, okay, if I need to have a look red, grab red, or an emergency exit, I can do this. But I can't really do it yet because I had student loans and some life stuff. I couldn't just pop chalks and leave because my mom had co-signed on stuff, and I needed to make more money. We couldn't really do it in the Foreign Legion. I was aware of that. I licked my wounds. A moment of clarity happened. I call it God, man. I straight up was like, get up, write down your charges, write down the dispositions, and go to the Navy recruiter and just hand it to him. So I did. I wrote it down. It didn't look terrible when it was on a piece of paper because it was all cleared. It was just some misdemeanors. I didn't write everything, or it would have been a fucking encyclopedia. It would have looked ridiculous. Not every time I got hooked and booked, but everything that there was like paperwork on. So I said, okay. And I went down there and he looked at it, and he looked at it for a million years and then said, we can work with this. I said, okay. He's like, but you can only do like 2 jobs. You can be like wrangle shit or be a Navy SEAL. There's like no in between for you. You can't be a corpsman. You can't do none of that because you're drug charged. There's like 2 jobs you can do. And I said, well, it's good because I'm here to be a Navy SEAL. Let's do this. And he said, well, I said, what do I do? He said, well, you got to pass these. We got to get you in the Navy, right? Through MEPS. So I had to get through MEPS. Imagine that. My MEPS was sketchy. People think their MEPS my MEPS was a lot of strategery. I was like, it was probably one of the more stressful things I had done because there was a lot of strategic, not lying, strategic answering that I had to do. Because they were, threatening, hey, if you don't answer this and that, you're going to go to jail. I was like, man, I already went to jail. I already went to jail. I volunteered for jail to be here. There was nothing they could do to scare me in terms of that. I was like, man, because the truth was, if I was 100% transparent about everything, there's no way I would have got in, right? And I think a lot of people are like that, right? It's like, you ever smoked weed? No. They asked me about the weed. They're like, you never smoked weed before? I said, no. They go, you have 4 weed charges. And I said, wrong place, wrong time, no convictions, right? They're like, this guy, man. Hey, it was true. Wrong place, wrong time, right? I never done nothing. Get through MEPS, sign in with my initial now I got to get a SEAL contract. Now I got to get a SEAL challenge contract. So I asked the guy, who makes this decision? Where do I go? I sucked at running, man. Sucked. Couldn't even run a mile, man. I ran a half mile around the block. I was like, okay, what's the time? Okay. Couldn't even run a half mile. I was like, man, this is going to be I stopped going, this is going to be a long mountain, big hill to climb, big mountain to climb. If I'm going to do this thing, because I think Navy SEALs run. And they do. And so I was probably 230 and I was about 225. In about 6 weeks, I was 185. That's how fast I got focused and really got after it. I went and found a SEAL motivator who's like a retired lieutenant commander SEAL that ran the Vegas, LA, San Diego triangle. And he would do workouts and stuff. And I was down at the Naval Amphibious Base actually training. I was puking every day, running in Pendleton with some senior chief who was active duty, who was running kind of the NSW tests and all the stuff. And I was focused, man. And I would be the only guy showing up at Pendleton with the runs and stuff. I mean, everybody would say they'd go, but I was the only one showing up. And I was puking, man. But these guys saw that. Right? I knew I needed letters of recommendation too. And what do you know? On the PSTs, I'm the only guy going every week. Every week for like 9 months. Every week, I failed my first one. Then I went again and I passed. Then I went again and I'm getting better and better. And then by the time I'm at the end, I'm getting elevated scores on almost everything. I'm doing like, 20-something pull-ups and 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, crushing my swim. The run, barely passing every time, but passing and puking across the finish line every time. And that was the story of my military career. We'll get into that. August 26, 2009, I get a SEAL contract offered at the recruiter, and they said, okay, you sign and you ship in February 2010. And that's what I did. And I go to Great Lakes, Illinois on a SEAL contract in 2010. And it was in a special force unit, all SEAL candidates, boot camp. Was kind of doing this at the time. It was 101 guys. Only about 9 guys ended up being SEALs out of that initial boot camp group, right? Way far at the beginning. But we had a solid group. A lot of those guys are still operating the tip of the spear, like 5 out of 9. I knew we had a good group then, and it was very unique how good our group actually was. Solid cats, all American football players, all professional baseball players. I'm like, I'm with my people now, man. I felt like I was in the right spot. People ask me about how I felt being there. I was exactly where I wanted to be. I had gone through so much shit to get to that point. It was like a vacation, man. Being in that spot, man, I knew I was right in my pipeline of where I needed to be. It sucked, but I was happy to be sucking there. It was better than jail and hopelessness, which I had come from. That is like the scariest thing. Now being in something positive was amazing. Now, let's talk about the off the field shit, because that's a huge part of my story. During this whole process, when I got out of jail, I was locked, gone, man. I had nothing to celebrate. I also didn't have any money, but I had nothing to celebrate. I was stacking boxes at Home Depot at night, training in the day. Really just felt like, man, I'm just here to just do this. That's it. So I was focused all the way through a year and a half time, that year time where I got my SEAL contract. By the time I left, we were good. It's continued on that way. I linked up with guys who were focused, wanted to be not in the military, warriors, right? Warriors, like wanted to kick doors in and split foreheads, right? Not like eared messing around. So we were working out on the weekends, time off, doing stuff. Get through that, go to Bud's prep, end up testing well, doing well. That's a pretty good program. Running, lifting, swimming, 6 hours a day, every day. And then they take the top 75%. They fly us out to Bud's. And that's what we did. We flew out with 400, class 284. 3 weeks later, we had 285. 3 weeks later, we had 185. And then after Hell Week, we had about 50 guys. And then from that 15 ended up finishing. A lot of those guys got rolled back, that 50. But I was one of the original 15 to actually go through everything. And I went through all SQT class, also 284. So I did it as fast as you can do it. And it was luck, because I was barely passing my runs. What I liked about Bud's is that cohesion when they really sync up with guys. Like I had guys pushing me on the runs. I'd pull guys on the swims because I could swim, man, and I can guide well. And I'd have guys draft off me. They'd push me on the runs. We really synced up, and our group was solid, man, solid. Bud's is a magical time. Hell Week was harder than I could have ever imagined it being. The hallucinations start about Wednesday, And when you're starting to hallucinate, I would see upside down Buddhas in the sky, man. I would be like looking up and I'd see upside down Buddha's face in the clouds, man, all the time. I'd be like, man, dude, this is a trip. And my hip flexors were so, and everybody was, from being so tense and freezing for so long, your hip flexors get tight, man. And they're so knotted up, you can't even like stand straight up. Secretary of Defense Robert Gates secured us August 13th, 2010 for our Hell Week. Man, we were so haggard, and I remember that feeling when I secured Hell Week, because I had been growing up watching Bud's videos and growing up watching, and that was a moment when I saw my pizza and like my Gatorade on my brown shirt with my name stenciled on it, that I looked around and like everybody was gone. And I remember being like so beat up. It was one of the best feelings I ever felt in my life, because I went, damn, man. It gives me the chills now thinking about it, because it was surreal. Because anybody that says they know they'd pass is full of shit, man. You can't know anything for sure, right? So it's like, even if you're 99%, you still aren't sure. Every day I was packed with fear. So scared of failing and being on a boat, it was terrifying. I'm telling you right now, I wasn't gonna be in the Navy. Take that as you want it, man. I was not gonna do it. So it was life and death for me. That's how I viewed it. It was that serious for me. Every evolution. It was real fear, but not allowing that fear to deter you, right? There's people that are slaves of fear, and they won't take action because they're afraid of failure. Shift that. It's a psychological switch, right? Use that fear to propel you. Man, I'm more scared of what's behind me, which is mediocrity and average, than the failure in front of me. And that was something that I kind of took with me through Buds every day. I'm like, well, we're here. I already went to jail for this. Like, let's rock and roll. Right? Every obstacle course, every run, every single evolution, really. There was cool moments too, man. Really cool, magical moments. I remember rowing on Hell Week around into the bay, man. And I just remember looking, it's my city, man, my hometown, right? So I had a different angle. I'm looking at downtown, man, where I like grew up, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, I'm out here in Hell Week doing this, man. Like, we are partying, bro. Like, we are in it. And for so long, I was so scared, because I was always scared about something popping on my security clearance. That was a real thing. After Hell Week, I actually got called in the office, and they were like, hey, man, here's the issue with your security clearance. We don't know if you can continue. And then that ended up, nothing ever came of it. So there was always this cloud of like, maybe all this is gonna be for nothing. That was a real fear too. So most of my Buds was a feeling of fear mixed with elation when I would pass different wickets, right? Our pool competency, that was powerful. I remember waking up the day before pool comp test, which is that 20-minute underwater fighting for your air through processes without being able to surface. I remember waking up that morning, man. I woke up and I opened my eyes. That morning, waking up was one of the most surreal feelings, because I was like, very few times in your life do you wake up and know you're not gonna have air for an extended period of time. I remember going, and once the reality set to today was the pool competency test, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna not have air for 20 minutes today, for sure, right? Well, sporadic bursts of air. But take that deliberate action, right? I started doing my breath test, action alleviates anxiety. That's something that I push hard and still continue to this day, is just try to remember that, right? Try to remind myself, action alleviates anxiety. But Buds was a magical time. Graduation was amazing. And it was really, we graduated in December 9th, 2010. Moving into SQT and that was an interesting time, because I really felt like I was on a divine wave, because I was at the tail end. We hit mountain warfare in Alaska, winter, doing over-the-beach attacks in the snow, into combat diving, month, right? Doing all the sneaky, peeky stuff underwater with the rebreathers. Then going into close quarters combat, month. Really coming across instructors, guys at DevGru and guys at, right? And I really felt like I was in my niche. I was so happy and still very locked on off the field. Meeting cool dudes and really starting to get that cohesion going in. Then we go into land warfare. Osama bin Laden gets killed while we're out there. One of my last cells, when I have guys who are in my class whose brothers were, in the know, if you know what I'm saying. So felt close. It felt like I was in the right spot in terms of history and time and space, and all this stuff was happening. And then we graduate, man. In July, class 284, getting my trident was powerful, man, because I remember that CO laughing at me, man. And I remember people telling me, because I didn't telegraph I wanted to be a SEAL to people, because, man, when you telegraph things, people pull energy from you, right? So I wasn't telegraphing it by any means, but, it comes up in conversation, and it's just out of reach, people, they're like, people do that? It's, if they haven't done it, they don't know. But what do you know? There I am getting my trident. That felt good, having my mom there, my dad there, my family there, and just a really, really special day that I'll always be grateful for, right? Because there's a lot of luck involved. Let's be quite honest about her getting hurt and stuff like that, and then moving into, I go to SEAL Team 7. And during that time, Extortion 17 happens, right before I get to SEAL Team 7. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the community. I was very aware going in. This was real, man. This was not a joke. This was the real deal. Your life depended on it, and guys, family members were, dying. A powerful time to be going into the SEAL teams as a new guy. And man, didn't know what I was walking into. You walking in as a new guy to the SEAL team, but very focused. When getting to my locker, I remember that moment going, okay, I'm at my cage, and just full contact, getting into SEAL Team 7, focused, volunteering for schools, volunteering for whatever, there early, staying late, so happy. Such a good time in my life looking back. Just living in Mission Valley, living in San Diego, finally have enough money to start, be in control of my life, take care of myself, and just felt really good. And I hit a really good clip. I had a little bit of push, and some leadership liked me and this and that. And so I get comms, I go to JTAC, and I go to sniper school, bump, as a new guy. Sniper school was powerful. That was epic, really epic in Atterbury, Indiana. Very stressful as a new guy. Can't leave there failing going back. So you can imagine shooting on some of those tests, on some of those movers with high winds and stuff. I was pretty scared, man. So they take 10 guys from the East Coast, 10 guys from the West Coast, every class. And it was in Atterbury, Indiana. I love stalking, man. I like that stuff. I really, really gravitated to. That was a cool time because we were partying and stuff, man. So now kind of getting into it. We're out in town, getting after it on the time off, and man, some of those stories, man, we come in burning in for some of those stalks, not live fire stuff at the strip club. And maybe I'm the DD though, I'm the new guy, so there's chaos in the back, and I'm trying to fight off older guys, trying to punch me in the head, man. It's some alpha shit, man. You're out there with some guys, and a lot of them, a lot of combat experience, a lot of intensity. But that's what we're doing, right? That's what we're doing. Passed, came back. Now we're starting to work up. And going back though, a little bit, kind of before I left for sniper school, I go to Cabo for the G20 summit to do some work for Obama. And I get picked up for a small thing, and I almost died down there, man. I jumped off of a boat. We were in a big swell, and I was full kit, went in to drink 2 miles out, and I almost died. I had no flotation on, and I had a water wing, and my gun wired into my kit because I wasn't gonna lose my gun, and I almost died. That was intense, and that was a moment where I was like, oh, this is real. There's no more railings, no more bumpers on the railing. This is up to me to keep myself alive. So I'm happy it had happened there because it locked me on, right? I was like, and it can, when you least expect it. It was the summertime in Cabo. I'm thinking when I went down there, it was going to be chill. But a huge storm came in and it wasn't ready for it. That was a powerful moment, and it happened right at the beginning. It really locked me on. So I was happy about that. And we went through the rest of that year, worked up, strong workup, still really happy, locked on, still really, really focused, not messing around because I'm a new guy. I still had that, man, I got to prove myself. And I did. I hadn't done anything yet. Then we get picked up to go to Yemen. I get picked up to go to deployment in Yemen. This was 2013. The Houthis and stuff. There was stuff going on in it. Growing a beard and getting weird. It was nice because we were away from the flagpole, in our Arc'teryx gear, civilian gear, low-profile vehicles, living in tents, way out, right? Working with the counterterrorism unit, doing some PSD work for the ambassador. Happy to be working, stoked to be out there, 7 months. And coming back now, I'm a one platooner, SEAL. I'm no longer a new guy. Move right downtown. Things, I start getting a little bit more loose. The problem was this: when I look back, I had achieved my dream. I was legitimately so happy. That's when I say, be careful. And you guys know, man, it's always those times of celebration we self-sabotage. Be very careful. Be very, very careful about those times of celebration. Take a grain of salt with it. That is something that I cannot hammer hard enough because I get arrested coming back. That kind of gets brushed under the rug. It was just kind of a drunken public, and the cops were cool. So I'm locked back on, right? We're still going out, still doing stuff. I'm getting early promotes. Man, I'm like an E6 in like less than 4 years. I'm like cruising, man. And I remember having this moment where I took my ID and they took a picture for my promotion. And I was like, had this like kind of cocky smirk. Man, I was like, man, I'm crushing this. Stand by, man, because that's when it's coming. 2 weeks later, bro, I hit a guy in a bar. And that changed the trajectory of my life because I was on a JTAC trip. It was 2014, September 11th. I hit a guy in a bar one time. That punch, doesn't even matter why, right? Because it doesn't matter. I broke his orbital eye socket, so I get arrested for a GBH, gross bodily harm. So I get an aggravated assault, felony. Now, I'm in the hotel. They're sending brass up from the command. They're trying to do damage control. Some of it's on the news. It's on video. It's like aggressively violent looking. Because I used to train Muay Thai. I mean, I'm looking like this. The guy did something, and I turned and looked him and punched through the fucking guy's head, pretty much. So it looked bad. And it was bad. Now, I have an avalanche of shit falling on me. I have a felony charge. I have attorney. I had to hire one of the best attorneys, John Cox. Love you, bro. Not cheap. I had to get an expensive attorney. In Idaho, I have UCMJ coming down. Now I'm fighting this. Now I'm getting a demotion. Now my top secret clearance is getting pulled. Now all this, because I have a top secret TS that I needed. So I have a top secret clearance. I have a felony charge. I am getting cascade down on me. I'm fighting this case, and I don't even know how I was standing at the time. It was awful. It was like I was walking through quicksand, and guys who watch this know when you're in that mode of, I don't know if I could keep breathing, let alone fucking like doing stuff. Keep moving, right? Keep moving. You don't know how it's all gonna shake out. So that's what I did. I just kind of kept moving. We get the can kicked down the road, the court case. They're giving me 6 years plus 3 plea deal. That's it. 6 years in prison plus 3. That was my plea deal on one punch, right? Because he got hurt and he had to get surgery and this and that. I'm getting sued for $500,000 now, civilly also. Hemorrhaging cash. I have a military lawyer. I have a private lawyer. So I'm in it. I'm fighting through it. But because the can gets kicked down the road, the command's like, hey man, it's still kind of going on. He's not, we'll put him back in the training. So I'm back in, thank God. I'm just like, I'm flying back and forth, going to court dates, mind you. But I'm back in the training. So I'm like, man, so happy just to be working. And I'm going, and all the time it's in the back of my head, man, what is gonna happen with this? I'm like driving back from, different training sites, or I'm like, man, what is happening? Like, can't think about it now, right? Put it in the back, stay forward. Like, don't dwell on it too much. Just like deliberate self-talk, just to keep going. And my deployment to Iraq's rapidly approaching. I'm like, dude, if I miss this deployment because of this, dude, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I kind of pitched to the team. I was like, hey, I'm at this court. They need my quals. So what do you know? The team writes a letter to the court going, hey, we need his quals out in Iraq. And what's the deal? What do you know? The court said, okay. So I get to go to Iraq on bail, well, on active bail. Who the hell knows, man? But a divine intervention, it got me out there. I remember being on a helicopter leaving from Baghdad, just south of Mosul. Me and another guy flying at night. I'm just looking out, hanging out the window, going on night vision, just like, yes, finally, man. Like, at least I'm here. Like, if I die out here, at least I don't have to deal with that shit back there. So I was happy to be out there, man. And that was a dark deployment because we had to leapfrog and go from, just south of Mosul out to, I've never even been on a big base when I was deployed. We always had to build what we had. So it was an old ISIS storage facility for ordnance that we ended up moving all this ordnance out of the wrecked, and we built a pretty decent little FOB. And the whole mission set was meeting up with the Sunni tribal fighter units and leapfrogging to these strongholds that ISIS had taken over these villages. So that's what we're doing, taking Katyusha rockets to the base and stuff like that while we're working and trying to put up concertina wire and Mesco walls by hand, mind you. But slowly we built the base up, slowly we're getting vehicles, and slowly we're starting to build this thing out. But a lot of times I'm on that roof, on sniper watch 3 to 6, which was my watch in the morning. And I'm the things, and I'm thinking, man, dude, I got a felony case waiting for me. Damn, right? I was stressed, man. Such in a dark place. I was not probably in my best mental place there. I know I wasn't. Just trying to lift every day and just stay focused. I got, just super jacked and just focused on, and I volunteered to stay out there when the time to come back. I volunteered to stay out there and they approved it. Well, I ended up not staying because it didn't go through, but that pushed my court case back there because the court had known that I was probably going to be staying longer. That actually helped me out. Man, now I'm thinking, maybe I'll just join the Kurdish Peshmerga out here and not go back and go AWOL. I legitimately thought about it. So I'm like, man, I'm going back. My life's over. I wasn't even worried about prison. That's the truth. I didn't give a fuck about going to prison. I only cared about losing my SEAL career. That would have been everything. That's why if I got a felony, I was toast. So, which made it easy because when I got back and they're like, hey, we're not budging off this 6+3. I'm like, man, dude, we're going to take this jury trial. I got to take this to the box. They're like, we'll just take the plea. And I was like, I can't. It's a felony. So it made it really clear for me. I'm like, they're like, you might be risking 15 years in prison. I said, I don't care. I don't care about that. I said, the whole thing that matters is if I get a felony. So in any million years, I'll die in prison, man. If it doesn't, that's how much I cared about my SEAL career. I was like, I don't give a shit, man. If I'll spend I'll risk spending the rest of my life in prison. So they said, all right. And man, what do you know? Now that's coming up, they're not budging off it. It's the day of, man. I thought I'm walking the plank. I went out to the strip club the night before, and I was in Idaho, man. And I'm like hungover, just in my dress blues, getting ready to go to the courthouse, man, for a 3-day jury trial. And I'm like, well, here he goes, dude. I get a call from my lawyer, and he goes, hey, man, we got a deal for you. And I said, yeah, what is it? He goes, we got a misdemeanors. And I said, all right, take it. He goes, they're maxed out. They got 2 for you. 4 years formal probation. And you got to pay this guy all this money, or else they're keeping it a felony. And you got to pay it today. And I said, all right. All right, man. I wrote him my whole Iraq check and every dollar I pretty much had. Had to sell my truck too, on top of it. And had to go to jail still for a few weeks. So I went to jail up there, active duty SEAL, took vacation to go to jail. Went to jail in felony pod, violent crimes. And that's what I did. So I was up in Idaho and I served my time up there, man. And it was just a lot of meth addicts, a lot of white trash meth addicts up there. Man, I have all the respect for SEAL Team 7, right? I didn't leave them a lot of ground to stand on. And I did some more stuff we'll get into. But I have mad respect for leadership there. I didn't respect them enough by not holding the line like I should have, because that was my selfishness. My selfishness was me doing kind of what I wanted to do and not seeing what my actions could bring, which was, man, causing a bunch of people a lot of extra problems when they could have been focused on other stuff. I go to jail, serve my time, do my stuff, and what do you know? I get out, I go literally from the airport to land warfare, right to the training, right back in the pipeline, work some angles, I get my top secret security clearance back. Dude, it was like a feeling of, I can't believe I navigated this. I can't believe I navigated this. Whoa, man, it was a feeling. I still had my civil case pending, which was now $250,000 I was getting sued for. So that was still going on, but whatever, right? That was money. At least I had a demotion and I had this, but I'm still a SEAL. And that's all cleared up. I'm on formal probation, mind you. So technically I can't even leave San Diego without permission. I can't own a weapon. It's like all this weird stuff that I don't know how it was gonna work. But I was like, whatever. We'll worry about the details later. But I checked in and I wasn't allowed to drink, smoke, nothing. I mean, no drugs, obviously, but it wasn't allowed to drink. They could test me for alcohol and stuff. And I was like, all right. And I was good for like a month, right? I was at weddings and he can drink. No, I was like, no, I can't. But then, it's like, it starts getting loose and it's still immature as fuck. Like a girl asked me to go out. I'm like, yeah, I'll go out. Like, okay, now I'm out of San Diego and now I'm risking it, man. Risking it, looking back. But they weren't really bothering me, the probation office. I had asked permission a few times and then they were cool. And then, so I just kind of like got looser and looser as it progresses, right? Watch that progression. And that's how you can lie to yourself. Like, I'm like, I'm in shape, I'm working and this and that. So it's all good. Man, it was not all good. The universe will let you know it's not all good. It was a few months later, I'm with a girl. I remember the night before this concert, it was a Jimmy Buffett concert of all things. I was the happiest I'd ever been in my life. Dead serious. The happiest I had ever been up to that point in my life the night before this happened. Be careful if you're the happiest you've ever been. Just act right. Because I was like, man, I remember being in the shower going, this is the happiest I've ever been. I'm like cleared all my stuff, met this girl, I'm like working. I'm about to go to my next appointment to Iraq, my third. And I'm going, all right, man, we're back in it. Let's go to this concert. Boom, I get arrested at that concert. I get arrested at that concert for riding in a golf cart that wasn't mine. That's how this happened. And the cops roll up on me. I'm all blasting the tattoos, jacked. The cops roll up on me. They go, hey, and I go, the moment goes, I'm on probation. I'm drunk. They run my name. I'm fucked. So I go, hey, yeah. I go, yeah, they go, who's that? I go, I grab my wallet, boom, and I run. They try to tackle me. 2 cops tackle me, like 2 big cops. I shed them like dry leaves. I was like on one. They sick the dog on me. I'm getting away. So I have a German Shepherd on my ass now. I have a chunk out of my ass from the German Shepherd. Fighting this German Shepherd off. I get him off me. Jump the fence. Mind you, this is a Jimmy Buffett concert. So picture this. This is like in the parking lot. There's like tons of people watching this go down. They hit me with a taser from the, and it hits me once. And I'm like, yeah. And man, I yank it. They hit me with another taser. I yank that. They hit me with another taser and it started slowing me down. Then they hit me with a 4th one in the back of the spine. I couldn't reach it. And boom, 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 boom. They're just blasting me. I'm getting messed up and I'm all bloody. I get thrown in the back of the cop car and I knew I was fucked. I did it. It was like, I remember sitting in that moment, man, just that feeling now is, I remember going, well, that happened fast, right? Just 5 seconds ago, I was like the happiest I'd ever been. And now I'm bloody in the back of a cop car. Be careful, man. Be careful. Active Navy SEAL, normally you'd kind of be like, oh, let me get arrested and kind of like deal with this. And then I'll tell the command. I just told the cops, go call SEAL Team 7 right now. Send it. Let me just charge the machine gun nest because this is coming. So they did, man. And who knows what they told them because they kind of riled them. But they're like, he assaulted a police officer and this and that, which I didn't, right? I did not. But, when they tackled me, I'm trying to get up. I'm in flight mode. but I wasn't hitting anybody, but he had scraped his knee. And so that's what they had called it. So they gave me assault on a police officer for his scraped knee, which I didn't. So that's coming. I bail out because I have a good enough credit card and fast enough, even though I'm on probation, I just slipped through the cracks. So I get out. They call me down to the command. They go, hey, the whole SEAL Team 7's mustered on a Sunday because of you. Now this, so I'm like, oh man, dude. I remember driving down there going, so the worst feeling I had ever felt in my life. Going, my life is done. The girl's gone, right? Everything's done, man. I don't know what I'm gonna do. They drug test me. I pass. I have a active aggravated assault felony I'm fighting now. So what does that do? That violates my probation in Idaho now also on a violent crime with a new charge in San Diego. So I have worked some contacts and did this and that. I get that charge dropped to a misdemeanor, like disturbing the peace. I had to work that way up the chain of my own contacts, by the way. Had a really good attorney also, but we get it all squared away in like 2 weeks. And so now Navy JAG's going, fuck this guy. This guy's gonna get out of this again, right? They go, no way over this guy getting out of this again. It was NCIS and Navy JAG, and they wanted me bad. So they go, we're steroid testing him. There's no way a human being could do what he did. They read the police report, fight off a dog and pull 4 tasers out and all this stuff. They're like, we're gonna send his steroid test him and send it to the Olympics testing center. And I lit that motherfucking test up, dude. Like must have lit every light on that thing up like a Christmas tree, man. Because they go, you came back, you popped for Winstrol and test is too high and this. And I went, yep, sounds about right. That was it, man. That was it because zero tolerance. It's looked at like drugs. Once I knew I popped, I have a military attorney, right? And now I also had that private attorney in San Diego. And now I have my other attorney in Idaho. I have 3 attorneys now. Hemorrhaging cash, 2 states. I have federal marshals in a van from Idaho trying to extradite an active duty Navy SEAL from California. Stress, man. A lot going on. I'm like offline at this point. I'm away from the command. They're off in the pipeline and they're training. I'm like offline, right? Even the team was good with me. They're like, dude, they weren't having me empty trash cans and shit. They're like, dude, you have so much going on. Just handle your shit. So I really respected them for that because, man, I needed it. Looking back, dude, I don't know how I was standing, letting alone. I had the girlfriends was kind of back in, so there was like that distraction, which is thank God, man, because I was hurting, man. And dude, I started smoking weed just immediately, still active, dude. So, because I knew I'm getting kicked out, man. I was just on it, man. I remember a moment, it was a few months later, they called me to drug test, and I'm like, oh, fuck, right? I'm like, why? So now I'm in the shower, chugging 3 gallons of water in the heat, sweating for like 4 hours, dude, like pissing cold. I felt like I was gonna die. I was so hydrated. Pass. But I'm like, man, this is out of control. And I knew I was on the process out, and I was. And so what do you know? Now we're kind of coming up. I get I pitched to the Idaho court, can I just get off probation and I'll serve more time and this and that? And what do you know? They picked it up. So I go back to jail in Idaho. Same place, same pod. The COs were like, this guy's back. The fucking SEAL's back. You know, they're like, this guy's an idiot, man. But what do you know? When I walked out of there, I was off probation. After all that, me actually getting arrested got me off probation in Idaho, which is weird. I walked out of that jail, I was scot-free. No jail, no more probation, no more military. I signed my DD-214 the day after. No reserve time, I was done with everything. Now it's 2017, right? It's 2017 now, 7 years in the teams with all that. I had, not an idiot, I had prepped the battle space and knew I needed a job. I walked right in, I've always been really good at developing connections. People that, I try to provide them value and people that I can learn from. So I worked those connections for like months, for like 5 months kind of coming into this. And I walked into a supervisor role for the largest private developer, residential developer in the United States on the largest project in the United States, $750 million project. I'm the 2-man. So I'm riding around in a golf cart, learning how to build houses from underground trenching, from managing teams, inspections, from all the way to final sales. We did 19 million in the first year. Man, I'm like happy, man. Walk into it, pretty much a lateral move financially, but I had stacked a ton of debt. I'm also selling cocaine now because I thought that was a good idea because I was like trying to get out of debt. So I'm selling bricks of cocaine, not like a little bit, not like bags, like prison time worth. Doing it also, doing Adderall, doing Xanax, alcohol, weed, every fucking day. Every day. Not during work. That's how I could lie to myself, right? That's how I could lie to myself and be like, all right. Because I was like, man, I live in a house down by the beach. I have a beautiful girlfriend, beautiful truck, and like all this stuff, man. I'm crushing it. What? Right? Somebody say something, man. That was the cockiness. That was, man, I just was stressed though, too, man. I was hedged to the gills with debt from the court cases and all this, and that's what I was like trying to get out of it. Luckily, I had a moment of clarity, and I like woke up one day, and I went, go to your storage unit and get rid of all that cocaine right now. Dead serious. I woke up at like 2 a.m, and I sat up, and I was like, I just went, dude. Went, cleared everything out, gave it to somebody. Didn't sell it, gave it. I said, dude, I'm done. Left, never went back to that. Not saying what would have happened, who knows? But that's what I did. But that didn't help the debt any, because I had bought it all, right? It wasn't like I owed anybody, but I was like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I just knew that something bad was gonna happen. I just felt it. Then I just started kind of working and doing my thing, and another opportunity came when cannabis became legal in the United States, in California. And another former SEAL and this and that said we could launch a distribution company and this and that, and we have some venture capitalists. And I said, okay. So I did a lateral move, and my relationship was in turmoil and this and that. So it was just a chaotic, it was one of those times of like the winds of change were blowing strong, and it was chaotic. And I move into this job, and now I'm working for a venture capitalist. I didn't really know what I was going into. These guys are hedge fund guys and this and that, and I'm working in this company, and I'm just the chief security officer, and I'm okay. Now I'm figuring out how to build out a facility and talking to congressmen and get these and talk that. I can do this. Now everyone's getting fired, and I'm the only one raising capital, and now I'm pitching decks, and now I'm the CEO. Now I'm the right-hand man of the venture capitalist. Now I'm in a high rise. Now I'm pitching decks for millions of dollars. Now I'm raising millions of dollars myself. Now I'm doing now I'm meeting with congressmen. Now I'm doing this and that. And stacking on a fentanyl habit at night. Every night, in addition to all that other shit I was talking about before. So that was a year of this. Every day. Fentanyl at night, Adderall, Xanax, alcohol, weed during the day. That's what I was doing. And I was still working, still crushing, still raising still doing all this stuff. So I was going 1,000,000 miles an hour, living downtown, my beautiful girlfriend's back, and this and that. And you can only bend reality so long before you come crashing down. And that's literally what happened. I fell on my face. I did a line of fentanyl, and I fell on a marble fucking table and like split my forehead open. And like my girlfriend walks in, and we were at like a hotel, and it was kind of in a business setting, but it wasn't in a business like meeting, but it had all fallen apart. It was that moment. I was like, okay, and now things start to unravel. Right? The pieces, man, start to just disintegrate of my life at this moment. Now the venture capitalist guys, the boss is saying, hey man, you were an asset, now you're a liability. Boom, man. That's what we are as men, dude. Assets or liabilities. That statement, man, stuck with me for years after that. Now the girlfriend's kind of gone. Now this and that. Now I'm moving to Hawaii to like just clear my head. So I find myself in Hawaii. Big island, in the jungle, man. No job, money's running out, no purpose, no anything. And I go, oh shit. And then I realized I don't have any money, and I'm parked, and I got nowhere to go. Then I went, oh shit, I'm homeless. Dead serious. I went, oh fuck, I'm homeless. This is how this happens, right? And I had gotten off fentanyl too, by the way, during this time, which, oh man, that was rough. But, still kind of doing Adderall and stuff, but got off the opioids and stuff, just cold turkey, man. I had a sawed-off shotgun on my lap. I was going to blast myself. 3 days, I'm sitting in this jungle, man, in my car going, I'm just going to smoke myself, dude. Fuck this, dude. I'm so tired of this shit. Just trying so hard to just be massively successful all the time and just fucking, I just was like, dude, just tired. That was the truth. I wasn't sad. I wasn't crying. It wasn't any of that. It was like just matter of fact, like, dude, I'm just tired of this. Fucking, no, pointless, man. What's the point of all this? And that's when that authentic voice of God spoke to me and said, you're being a fucking pussy. Listen to yourself, man. And that's when I started to reflect on, like, dude, how selfish I'm being. Just talking about myself. Sad I am about everything that I did. It's like, the truth is, it was all decisions I made. I had every opportunity in the book, and I just crushed it. And I went, fuck. All right, well, now that's the reality. And I had a mom, a sister, like, what's their life gonna be like? And that's why I said, talk about, guys, a lot of my story is off the field stuff, because, dude, man, suicide and stuff, man, it's real. And dudes, take that option, man. Fucking think about what you're leaving behind you. We're talking about legacy, dudes are talking about, man, you're leaving a trail of destruction behind you. I didn't want to leave that. So I said, well, if I'm gonna die, let me do it with my boots on at least. And so that's in the moment I went, fuck this, I'm joining the French Foreign Legion. That moment was when I made that decision. Was in that homeless in my truck going, fuck this. 8 days later, I was in France. Took a couple fast cash loans out and flew to France, man. Just off my stuff and dropped it at a house. Somebody said, I'll be back in a few years, maybe. And I went and touched down in France, man. Got the drugs out of my system, the Adderall and stuff. Like, I just ran and spent a few days cleaning out and prepped my stuff, last administrative stuff, and then went and knocked on the door, man, in Paris, at Fort Nogent on the outskirts of Paris, ready to rock and roll, dude, with my passport and my black bag, dude. And 34 years old, right? I wasn't a spring chicken. And knowing I was going into an infantry boot camp in a foreign government, in a foreign land, in a foreign language, where I was gonna be shark shit on the bottom of the ocean. Nobody gave a fuck. I was a SEAL, this and that. I brought my DD-214, not to telegraph to people, but at least so the powers that be would know, which I had a general discharge, right? General under honorable discharge. But they'd see all that. They'd see my quals, they'd see whatever, and that's what I did, man. And so that process going in the Foreign Legion was a trip, dude. So I was 34, and now this is 2019, in October. So it was 2 years and some change by the time I was out of the United States military, and then all that 2 years of civilian just before I joined the Legion. The only way to do it is to go and knock on the door. It's the only way to do it. There's 2 spots, one in South France and one in Paris. I picked Paris. And then knocking on that door, a Legionnaire opens the door, a 200-year-old institution, people that don't know about the Foreign Legion, and it's a 200-year-old institution of just the foreign fighters, small contingent of French, but foreign fighters that an old king started to funnel foreigners who were hanging around in France from a previous war, out of the bars, out of the street, back onto the battlefield, and the carrot was French citizenship. It was modeled after the Roman legions. Knocked on that door, man. Je suis ici pour la Légion. And a guy with a beret and a gun, a FAMAS, answered the door, and he said, give me your passport. That's the first thing. And I didn't see that passport again for 3 years. They take that passport immediately, and then you wait there. And I remember sitting back, my head against the wall, and I'm in this, it's like a dungeon, man. It's an old medieval castle looking, it's all rocks and bars and wood. And I just remember leaning my head back against the wall, man, and a bunch of the rocks crumbled and fell on my head, and I went, oh, fuck, dude, this is gonna suck, man. The thing was, I wasn't naive. I wasn't like some young kid going into some romantic notion about what I was walking into. I was well-read. I knew what was going on. I knew people die in the Legion from hazing. I didn't know what I was going to be happening. Buried up to the neck in sand in Africa. And I also knew it was just going back to boot camp, man. That wasn't new to me. I had just been doing halo jumps at night. Now I'm going back to how to shoot. And so I knew it was going to be take bite and some humble pie. I didn't know the Foreign Legion was going to take that fucking whole pie and shove it down my throat, man, which is what happened. And then a Ukrainian chief comes out and he goes, hey, viens ici. He goes, come here. He goes, get up walks me back through this courtyard to the back in the barracks. It's like, oh man, it's nighttime. I went in at night on a Sunday night. It's raining. And I just was like, man, on the Hunter's full moon, man, in October 2019. And I was just looking up, man, going, damn, bro, this is happening. This is going down, bro, whether I like it or not, man. And I was terrified of making it. I was also terrified of not making it because I cut up my fucking credit cards before I walked in. I had nothing. I burned the boats, man. I cut up all my credit cards and threw them in the trash outside. I had no way to get home, man. I would have had to stow away on a ship or something and like wash dishes to like get home or go to the embassy. I don't know what I would have done, man. But I was just like, this is it. I go down, the first thing you tell me to do is get up on the pull-up bar. It's a pull-up bar in the hallway. They make you crank out, a bunch. And he tells me, okay, get down. They give me a preliminary IQ test, like 5 questions, simple. Then they search my bag. Then they tell me to go fucking sleep in the back. And now I walk back there, and in that back room, man, it's like sitting in a room of the Olympics or something, man. You never heard so many languages in one space. Mongolians, Thai, Nepalese, Ukrainians, Russians, Germans, every country in Africa, Chad. We had South Africans in there also. Click up with the guys who speak English. I knew no French. Mind you, everybody's speaking to you in French too. It's mandatory in the Foreign Legion is French. And we start the process. And now I remember waking up the next day and they blow the whistle. And that's the thing in the Legion. They blow the whistle. And I got up and I remember like there was a way to fold your sheets. They teach you to like roll. It's like a special way. And I had been doing the thing about 34, bro. Last time I did it was 24. And I'd been a SEAL living in town, and then I had been doing civilian, whatever I wanted. I remember holding that sheet, and it was a fucking like 2 roads diverged in yellow wood. I went, dude, am I really gonna do this? I was like, yep. All right. There we go. So I started folding my sheet, and that was the moment where I knew. I was like, all right, I'm committing to this. And then we do medical checks, psychological evaluations. They're checking your teeth. They're checking your feet. They're checking everything. They're going hardcore on the interviews. They're asking, who the fuck are you? Why is a Navy SEAL here? They don't want problems with the United States government. They don't want war crimes. They don't want Interpol background. They have hardcore Interpol checks, arms trafficking, drug trafficking, sex crimes. They're looking at all this stuff, man. You got to figure out who you are. They only picked 1 out of 15 that ended up actually going to boot camp, let alone passing, right? Everything. But just to get selected, it's 1 out of 15. And so I'm in there waiting, man, trying to learn a little French and just waiting, going through the physical tests also, push-ups, sprints, this and that, man. And I was like, bro, and I hadn't run, dude. And I was just like, I didn't have time to train, man. This was like, I had been lifting weights and I'd stayed in shape good enough, but man, running. And I don't know if you know, but the French Foreign Legion is world-class running. It's like next level. French military in general is runners. There's a whole different philosophy on military operations. They're like fast, quick, light, no security, right? We're like a lot of cartridges, like, heavy security. It's just different philosophy. So it was rough, man. Real hardcore sleep deprivation. Cold at the farm when they sent us. I got selected. So I went through everything, Gestapo interviews, and it's serious. It takes a month to process through all that. A month of actually getting into selected to go to boot camp. But I made it. They offered me a 5-year contract, and I picked it up. And they said, all right, man, we know who you are, and this is we're going to offer you this. And so I went in, got sent to the farm, which is there's a little selection, kicking the balls. It's up in the French Pyrenees on the Spanish border. Cold, man, cold. I mean, I'm a SEAL, dude. I know cold. It was cold. It was like inescapable cold because you don't have the right gear. You're out in the mountains. There was no like going in your room. It was just getting after it. Pretty rustic. And that's just the Foreign Legion in general. They like pride themselves on like being hard, which I was like, oh man, dude, because I remember looking at planes flying above, and I'm like, dude, where are those people going, man? I remember being like, what am I doing down here, bro? I was just like, man, 34, bro, looking at these kids. I was like, damn, dude. But I was like, I earned it. That's the way I was like Seneca says, man, there's where else than right where you are. Fucking every decision I made led me to this point. That's the only reality there is. So they take 17 and a half to 39 and a half. That's the window. No waivers. That's it. So I was, there was a couple older guys, but dude, the running was I was just getting yelled at, man, by Russians. Everybody yelling at me has a Russian accent, French and a Russian accent. My French has a Russian accent. People always say, they go, you sound like you're Eastern Bloc. I go, that's who I learned from, right? Eating bread and coffee in the morning. They don't eat breakfast, right? Really. So I was losing weight, man. I was really in a emotional hole also. Man, just feeling of what I lost, what I was, where I was, doing this, cleaning toilets, man, I say this before, but it's a baptism in humility. It was a baptism in humility. I wasn't really talking about what I had done and this and that. It wasn't something I brought up because it didn't matter. It didn't fucking matter. I was there cleaning shit with just some kid who hadn't done nothing. When we'd pull the guns out and shoot, they fucking knew what was up though. They're like, God damn, right? I'll drive nails. Give me anything. I'll pick a FAMAS up, pick a bullpup up, pick a HK416, man, I'll turn that piece of art, And so they were like, damn, dude. But still, you'd have guys, I'd be telling me how to shoot and this. I'm like, that there's no talking back. There's no this and that. I mean, they'll crush you there. So it was just learning to shut my fucking mouth. Hey, Navy SEAL, clean this fucking toilet. A lot of that when they would find out. I got a lot of extra love, a lot of extra weight. And what do you know? I go through the boot camp, the Castel Notary, I get through it, and it was hard, man. My legs I tore my medial calf muscle like the first few weeks and it's all deformed, man, and just kept running on it. Just didn't even stop. And years later, I actually went and got it checked out. And they're like, the doctor's like, what the hell happened? I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, they still don't know what the hell happened or how I was walking. It was painful, doing obstacle courses and stuff with that, running, doing all the runs. But I made this, because I was so terrified of getting rolled back there, right? Getting held dude, I had nowhere else to go. I had to pass. Man, I had to pass. I had no option in my heart because I had never heard of a Navy SEAL being a Legionnaire. And come to find out, I'm the only one to ever fucking do it. Only one on the earth to be a Navy SEAL, French War Legionnaire. At least on record, and nobody else has ever done it. And get right. Because that was a lot of my deal is, man, I talked to my mom sipping on a bottle of vodka night before I go in. And I go, Mom, I got to do this. She was like, you don't have to do this. I said, I do. She said, why? I said, because I'm still in it. So sipping on a bottle of vodka, I was like, I don't know. What I'm doing is not working because I just keep self-sabotaging. It's just a revolving door. I don't know what I'm doing wrong because I'm like going up and down. I was just like, I need time to think. That was the truth. I went to the Legion to like chill out, which is funny, man. Like I tell people that, they're like, what? It's like, I use it as big boy timeout. I'm like, I need to break everything away, strip myself down to the studs, and just reset. Because I don't know I'm doing something wrong. I have to unlearn some shit and learn some new shit. Or just unlearn some shit. Because something's up with my programming. And that's exactly what the Legion provided me, was time. So I get pulled aside by Legion leadership and I tell them I wanted to go to the parachute regiment on Corsica. Wasn't ended up being an option because they weren't happy with my run times and this and that, but they said, hey, there's a really deployed unit called GCM, Mountain Commando Group. It's a very specialized unit in the Foreign Legion. Legion has regiments and they have specialty regiments, mountain infantry, they have mountain specialty, parachute, cavalry. The Legion French Foreign Legion is an interesting unit because it's kind of like the Marine Corps, very strict, very formal like that, but it's kind of like the Marine Corps in that they're like all in-house. Like it's like one-stop shop. You have admin guys, everyone's a shooter, but there's like all in-house. Like, and that's what the Legion is. It's a one-stop shop for the French. It's its own branch of the military, but they have cooks, they have admin guys, cavalry, mountain specialty, engineering. They have all of that incorporated in the 7,500 guys. Scattered throughout the world, Tahiti, South America, Africa, and a lot of people don't know, man. 26 countries in Africa speak French. Africa is heavy with the French. The French send the Legion down there all the time to all these different countries. And guess what? They don't have any political pressure of anybody coming back in body bags that are French. So it's a gray legal area. When I got into the Legion, when I passed everything, they give me a fake name and a fake French passport with Trent Clayson was my name. With a European Social Security number, fake name, fake everything. And I deployed on my first deployment with a fake name in French, with a French passport, formal, official passport. So my first deployment, because I requested to go to this unit where GCM was. Now, it was going to take me a few years to get there. You have to get invited, but it was at the Mountain Regiment. It's actually an engineering regiment, but it's attached to the 27th Mountain Infantry Brigade of France. That's where I got selected, and that's where I went. And I don't even like the mountains, but I hate the mountains. I'm not built like that. But so what do you know, though? I get there, and where do they send me? First deployment. Jump. We go down there. It's the wild fucking West down there, man. Gold everywhere. It's free for all. So they send us, the French Foreign Legion, down into South America. French Guiana, people don't know, France has territory in South America. They use the euro. They speak French. It's in just north of Brazil. On a plane, to a train, to a boat, to a river boat, to 8 hours on a river boat, to a post on the Suriname border deep in the Amazon for 4 months. Deep, balls deep. Living out there, man. And just I mean, here in the French Foreign Legion is very strict, so you're still abiding by the times and this and that. But dude, 24-hour watches all the time. We're doing patrols, deep jungle operations, doing interdiction of gold mines, hitting gold mines every day. That's how many there are down there. Every day on like a 14-day patrol, we'd hit a new one and blow the shit out of it, break their generators up, wrap dudes up, but you gotta hook it. You can't hook them. What are you gonna do with them? So you just wrap them up, burn their fucking house down. Dead serious. It's scorched earth. You just burn everything that they have, burn everything. And so I'm the Navy SEAL new guy, carrying chainsaws, heavy, man. Really, really hard work, but I loved it, man. I was so happy to be working because people don't know, man, the French Foreign Legion, when you're at the regiment, it's rough, man. It is a rough go. It's like prison with a gun. I mean, you're checking in, you're checking out. It's constant tension, constant harassment, constant, very difficult, challenging environment because there's a lot of Eastern Bloc guys. They push that hard culture down. It's not a lot of laughter. It's tough. So we do that. We're down and doing that for 4 months, and I come back. We do a quick turnaround, little, kind of reset, and then they sent us to an anti-terrorism domestic mission for 2 months, interior of France. A lot of people don't know. The French use the French Foreign Legion to patrol interior of France, cities and stuff with full kit and everything, just in the cities. We got to go to Nice on the Riviera, baby, patrolling on the beach, topless chicks, man, and it was a good time. Right? It was a good time. There were some collateral benefits. And guess what? That 2 months goes by, things are going good. Now I'm like starting to kind of know who's who in the zoo. It's still tough, still whatever. We're still kind of doing the damn thing, but we're working. We're back in. Mind you, I'm about 2 years in. Now I'm up for a promotional course. Very tough. I got kind of early selected for it. Kicking the balls, man. This is another just straight chop, man, to the nuts. Obstacle courses, running, it's just haze fest, man. I just was so burned out on that shit by now. I'm 37, man. I'm 36. But now I get invited to screen for Mountain Commando Group, right? They knew me and whatever, and so I get invited to screen, and I go on some of the tests, and I failed one of their initial run tests. It was fast, man, fast. And I knew when I failed that test, though, because the guys were like, hey, come back. The guys knew who I was and knew how I worked, who were actually there. And there's only like 20 guys. It's not like a big unit. And they're like, hey, dude, let's come back and train. And I just was like, dude, I'm done. I do not want to. Plus, I had to sign another 5-year contract. I was like, dude, I don't have it in me to do this anymore. Right? And I saw what the job was, and I just was like, I want to do something else. Plus, through all this time, man, I had like a vision of my body, man. I went to the Legion because I knew they wouldn't fuck with me about my tattoos. I knew I wanted to finish my tattoos, and I'm tatted head to toe, man. Head, gooch, toes. I'm not missing a spot, man. Just some of the strategic spots, but that's about it. But I was focused. Wasn't in the bars fucking around. It wasn't perfect right away, but I was focused, man. Every weekend, tattooed, chilling, resting, working out, starting to build this system. And now I start to build this system of, man, I still was in this French Foreign Legion barracks room, and I had a moment where I realized, dude, I'm still fucking not happy. And I go start researching about Ukraine. Maybe I'll go to Ukraine and they have friends there who are fighting and they're like, hey, come to this unit here and this and that. And Ukraine's kicking off. Because a lot of people don't know, 10% of the Foreign Legion is Ukrainians. So I had a lot of ties, a lot of Belarusians and a lot of Ukrainians who I'm still FaceTime with and whatever. So they were like, hey man, come here and fight and do this. And so I'm looking into it. I had this moment where I'm like, where does this end? Where does this end? I'm not happy. I'm gonna go there and I'm like, because I wanted to build a life, man. I wanted to start making money. I wanted to have like a kids and like, dude, I'm fucking 38 now. And I started to really examine myself. Why, what am I trying to seek here, right? To seek is to suffer. What am I trying to seek here? I was trying to seek being a badass. As simple as it was. I wanted to be fucking like, why? Like, nobody gives a shit, right? Nobody gives a shit. And that's when I kind of started to really like, nobody cares what you're doing, right? They care like what your character is, what you're doing, like people in your life. But nobody in my family cared what if I'm like some Billy badass and it's fucking doing another thing and I'm not happy there either. So I really started to look internal and I realized there was no more units, there was no more thing with clout that was there's nothing. Man, I'm the only Navy SEAL Legionnaire in the world, man, and I still wasn't happy. And I gotta look internal. I started looking into Stoic philosophy. What are these guys talking about? Samurai philosophers like Musashi. What are these guys talking about? And they're talking about the same stuff, right? So I started getting up early. I started instituting more discipline on myself than the Legion did. If they told me to get up at 5, I'd get up at 3. Dead serious. Working out in the bathroom, like not killing myself like some maniac, but self-reflecting, quiet time, started tracking my macros, started doing this all the time, not taking any days off. Not like, because I'd always been like good and then kind of not. I never was decisive about it. And this was the key. So many times in my life, I was decisive as fuck about what I wanted to do, but never decisive about who I wanted to be. That was key. Like in terms of character, man, and this and that, because I had done so many questionable things, man. And I was just like, dude, I'm gonna start holding myself to a higher standard, saying no to myself more. Like obviously, if I had been saying yes to myself about everything, and I know where it leads. Let's try the opposite shit for once. Well, you know, my life started getting better, and then I started having good days all the time, consistently, no bad days. Taking responsibility for my vibration, how I felt, how I was around people, my energy around people. If I was low, being self-aware enough to change it, move, right? I get some action, get some sunlight, do some things to actually like take action about who I was and the energy I was putting out. What do you know? I started feeling good again and again and again. And then things started to happen and line up and this and that. So I started building this system, supplementation and how training. And then I just started doing it very consistently, systematically, all the time. It felt great. I had this validation of self that wasn't external, and that felt good. I was like, oh man, I don't need, like, I feel good about who I am, and it wasn't from what I was doing. That was new to me, because even from a child, it was sports, or I was, you know, the all-star, the captain here, and then it had to be Navy SEAL, and then it had to be CEO, and then Legionnaire, and then all it really boiled down to was me. Anybody can do that. We see what's going on in this fucking earth right now. It's lack of ownership, man. It's lack of people being able to validate themselves on their good habits, how they treat people, what they do, right? You need some social proof and to accomplish things, yeah. But you have to first create the man that can accomplish anything, right? You got to create the man that can crush any blueprint. Doesn't matter what he's doing. It's not what or how, it's who. That's the key, who. So I started creating the who, man. Who can do these things, man? And who can be successful? And man, it felt great. I felt happy, man, for the first time, because man, for years, I didn't remember even being happy for years after all that stuff had happened to the SEAL team. Man, I've been like fighting through this cloud. And guys who are watching this, man, you know, if you're fighting through the cloud, you can get out of it. And there's a simple way to do this, man. And I had to reach out to people too. Don't be afraid to reach out, right? And so that's when I started to build this system. And I went, dude, I can teach people how to do this. I know how to do this. I've done it. I was suicidal, and now I feel great every day. And it had nothing to do with what I've done. Nothing. I started kind of putting together a plan, like, how do I actually like package this and like, what do I do? How do you actually like deliver this message? Because mostly it's the message that's important, is empowerment, right? Because as men, like I said, we're assets or liabilities. If you're not empowering yourself through your daily habits and actions, you're poisoning your family. You're a liability. So I said, let's start changing this country, one man by one man. Let's start doing, if I could do it, because there's a lot of veterans and people that struggle and business guys and just people, man, who just lost their mojo, man. And I've been there, man. I just did not see it. And so I started putting together in his barracks room and started putting out some videos and some YouTubes, man. And I got some heat from the Legion for it. You know, we tried to fight it and whatever, but it just wasn't happening. My contract got broken and I had to leave because it wasn't going to continue there, and I could not. This was what I was supposed to do. I had to get out of the country, and I had a lawyer go, dude, they're going to fucking fry you. You're not even a legal citizen here. Like, you have such weird gray legal, it's very gray. So he's like, dude, you could be fucked, right? They could wrap you up, put you on food discipline for months before kicking you out anyway. He's like, you should probably get out of here because you're denying an order from the general, pretty much. Because my shit blew up, man. You know, I put out a video in my barracks room talking about my story, where I came from, and they were not happy with it. Nothing bad. I always champion the Legion. I respect the Legion. I love the Legion for what it can provide. And that's what I always say, man. If you need help, man, it's a good spot. It's a great spot to reset and work if that's what you need. It's not for everybody, but it's a good place. And I still will always stand by that. But I had a higher calling, man. And I knew, and once I started getting emails doing, dude, I was about to kill myself, and I didn't. So not like one or two, but like hundreds. And I still get them all the time. They're like, dude, I got to tell you, man, I really appreciate that. Like, and so I started working with guys, started reaching out, and I started building this plan, and it started like putting systematically how to do it, man. I was like, dude, I would do this kind of mentorship, man, and coaching. And so that's what I've been doing full focus since I got back to the United States. And it's so fulfilling, bro, just to see people's bodies change, lives change, as marriages get saved and get off, dudes come, dude, this is the first year in 12 years I haven't been on cocaine at Christmas, big time guys, not like small time, but big names, big businesses with a lot to lose, right? The smart man recognizes when the speed wobbles are coming, right? When the speed wobbles are coming. You don't need to smash into the wall like a lot of people do, like I've done. Man, if you're feeling like something's off, like you're not stoked when you wake up, like you're losing, you need to get ahead of it. It's not more shit, it's less shit. Get some outside perspective, strip the day down, get some outside accountability. That's what I needed when I kind of reset your nutrition, reset your training, get some new energy into the system, get your mojo back. It's too important because, man, we got one go at this, man. Any time that's wasted where you're just wallowing, you're fucking wasting. Why? Why not wake up stoked? You can. It's possible. Your family deserves it. My family deserves it. We deserve it ourselves to feel good. And what does that do for our communities, our families? It's too important to just go, oh yeah, I'll figure it out myself. Why? Why, when there's blueprints already built that can just do it in black and white? Like we talked about, man, accountability is massive. Why try to spend 6 months trying to figure some shit out if you ever figure it out? Or pay somebody a little money to figure it out in a month. It's like you don't build a house without a blueprint, and you wouldn't build a blueprint if you didn't know how to build a house, man. If what you're doing is not working, get some outside information, right? Luckily, I had years to spend building something that I knew I needed, and I do every day still. It's what I know works, and what I know has worked for thousands of years, right? It's basic tenets, but it's been great, man. Being back in the United States and having this autonomy back. It's been a wild ride. People go, you've changed? I go, I sure hope so. Fuck, you haven't changed, bro? Dude, this whole thing's about change. You cannot get healthy in the same place that made you sick. Impossible. Move. Elevate. If you're not inspired by the people around you, dude, you don't owe anybody anything. What, just because you grew up around them? Fuck them, right? You can love them from afar. They're on their own journey. Send them love, but that's it. If they're not benefiting you, your soul, right? Not like they're helping you out. Man, if they're not on your purpose, on your path of purpose for your divine design, man, they're hurting you, right? Send them love. They are on their own journey that they need to learn. You might be further ahead. You're the sum of the 5 people that whole saying, it's absolutely true. You cannot be successful around people who are unsuccessful. So get around people that are going to elevate you, push you, and hold you to a higher standard. Man, if people aren't holding you to a higher standard, they're no good for you. And oftentimes they're family. Just because they're blood, man, you're not tied to them. If they're not helping your soul on your journey, man, you can love them from afar, right? Be there for them if they need you, but that's it. I'm adamant about that. You cannot do this. And periods of isolation are important, right? You need periods of where you can just focus on yourself, man. There's a lot going on, and you're not good for anybody until you're good. And it starts with your daily habits. You can't get around that. People try to, I'm working on my business. But you're not working on yourself. That doesn't make any sense. You are your business. You are your brand. Anything you do starts with self-development. Then your business. Your level of success is never going to exceed your level of self-development. It will not happen. So that's why let's start with the foundation, which is self. Always can get me on my website, taylorcavanaugh.com. They have the story, man, it's picture, but all the contact forms, right? They show the different levels and possibilities of how they can work with me. Everything goes to my personal email. I don't outsource anything. So every single contact form, if they reach out and they get response, it's from me personally. taylorcavanaugh.com. Also on my Instagram, tcavofficial. I'm Johnny on the spot with those DMs. I answer everybody. As I'm always sparks flying off my cell phone, man. I'm fully in this, man. 7 days a week, 19 hours a day. I'm on this thing. This is my full purpose. Also on my YouTube, TCAV TV, where I dive into the deeper principles, and I do 7 to 15 minute stream of consciousness videos. No edits, no stops. I only upload the first video, always, since video number 1. We do Legion stories. Also, I do gym footage and workouts with guys, and it's positive, talking about growth, talking about challenging topics too, right? Like, you know, we all have that dark passenger in us, right? Talking about things that men deal with that we're not on an island. We're all connected, right? It's not kumbaya, man. We're all dealing with the same shit. We're all struggling in a lot of the same ways. So guess what? The answers are the same, right? And it feels good when you know other people are going through it. And guess what? Let's get connected. Let's work one-on-one. And let's correct this ship. Man, if you're being called, if you're hearing that higher consciousness calling you to be better, then you have to fucking do it. You got to answer it, right? That anxiety is going to build. There's no way around it. So answer it. Let's do it.